Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Thursday Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, Oklahoma City Madmouth. Pleased to be joined by my co-host Rod Peterson. Rod and I had a whale of a time over at the Rod Peterson Show in Boca Raton, and we're picking it up here tonight on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network on the Sports Exchange. Rod, first of all, I want you to give our viewers and listeners an opportunity to find out what we talked about this afternoon over in Boca Raton over on the Rod Peterson Show. Great to talk about it, but go ahead and let everybody know because we covered a wide range of things.
That's what we do, and thanks for coming down, Scott. I appreciated it. My
You're welcome.
viewers really love having you on, and it's national television in Canada, if your viewers don't know, in 32 U.S. states. So what did we cover? We do NHL leftovers, as I like to say. We talked about last night's NHL games. Spent a lot of time on the Connor McDavid 3-game suspension. We talked about the NFL Conference Championships this weekend. You made your predictions, even though I didn't ask for them. You jumped in for them, which is what I was leading you to do. You were one step ahead of me as usual. We talked about the NFL kickoff and should the Canadian Football League and college adopt it. That was the poll question. You gave your thoughts. I gave mine. We talked college football. You were there for an hour and 20 minutes. Does that sound like everything?
Yeah, you did a good job summarizing the whole thing. One other thing I want to ask you about it before we get to the agenda at hand, Rod. Where can everybody find the Rod Peterson Show? Give it to them.
It's on the Game Plus television network all across Canada, 32 U.S. states, including, I believe, Michigan and some areas of Florida, and on YouTube as well under the Rod Peterson Show.
So if you haven't subscribed to Rod Peterson's YouTube channel, folks, please go out there and do so. I enjoy him as my co-host. We have a lot of projects that we're working on. And Rod and I have been doing this for about 6 months, but we have a lot more things ahead in the coming months. We're just getting everything started with our brand as well. So with that said, let's go ahead and take care of the agenda at hand. I love your teaser, though, on Twitter. I mean, how you put me on the spot and mentioned my Connor McDavid thing. So why don't you make reference about what we said on Twitter? But I'm going to let everybody know, is the NHL using Connor McDavid as an example is the title of this broadcast, Rod. So go ahead. I'm leading you into Twitter. Take over from there.
Well, this was Scott's hot take today for our Canadian viewers and hockey fans. And Scott said the NHL, by suspending Connor McDavid, who, let's be honest, is the face of the National Hockey League. Right now, he is. And they suspended him 3 games for cross-checking Vancouver's Connor Garland in the face on Saturday night on Hockey Night in Canada. Now, for your own reasons, you feel they're making an example of him. I feel the NHL got it wrong. I feel that there are different rules for different people. I don't like it. I don't make the rules, but there just are. I think it's setting a very dangerous precedent, Scott, as we get towards the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Oilers not only want to get back to the Stanley Cup final, but they want to win it this year. And if teams realize they can maul Connor McDavid to the point that he boils over and takes a stick infraction, a 5-minute match penalty, and a subsequent suspension, that's not a good sign for the Edmonton Oilers. So I double down and really think the NHL got it wrong.
Yeah, but you know what, Rod? I totally understand where you're coming from, but let's face the reality. We all know hockey is a physical sport. And player safety is going to become an issue in any sport where there's a great deal of physicality. Whether you like the suspension or agree with it or don't, I understand the NHL's position on this. I really do. Again, we're subject to both of us having opinions on it, but player safety is what you're really looking at, and that's why they made an example out of them. And, if you can make an example out of the best player in the league, you're going to send a message to the rest of the players. If we can suspend Connor, we can suspend you.
Isn't that sad? Again, the Oilers are on a slide now. They've got the Vancouver Canucks in there tonight. They need their best players, Scott. Listen, in Canada, and you spend enough time living in Detroit, you're honorary Canadian citizen.
I'm proud of it too.
Yeah, well, you see how the Canadian media covers this. Everybody's got an opinion on this. Everybody's got a perspective on this. And my God, I hope the NHL is okay with us questioning them. I mean, you're saying you see where they're coming from. I really don't, but that's why I've never worked in a league office. I've never held that type of role. I mean, I understand the fighting. They feel that's bad for. They ban fighting because why? For player safety or because it sends a bad message to the fans? Why is fighting frowned upon? Because that's what led Connor McDavid to do what he did the other night. You watched hockey in the 80s. Dave Semenko would have punched out Connor Garland's lights. You can't do that anymore. Why does the NHL frown on fighting in your mind?
Well, you know what? They have more physicality than the NBA. I mean, and I'm not dodging your question. I used to love fighting, and I know you did too. Let's face it. And this is a segue to where we're going to go later. So let's not over jump the boundaries. But the Broad Street Bullies and the Dead Wings define what an interesting rivalry was between two teams that were so far apart in the standings. So I get that. We all talk about the Dave Schultzes and the what is it? Kelly, what's his name? I'm trying to remember his last name for Philadelphia.
Dave Schultz, Bob Battleship Kelly.
Those guys. That's it. Bob Kelly. That's where it's going. So I understand it. But why? Well, because obviously they turned it into a European style game is what they've done. Remember, a long time ago, they had that ice where you had those extra red lines and they got rid of them so that you can patternize it as more of a European style game. I get it. But let's face it. I'll take hockey's physicality that they have now over the patty cake business that they have in the NBA all day long. I really will. I'm not, and that's a compliment to hockey. It really, really, really is. So that's it. That's the one imagination. But I know what they did with McDavid, and they're just trying to send a message, Rod. We can agree or disagree. Yeah, neither of us have worked in a league office. But that's what happened. They made an example of them. That's why this is the appropriate title for the show. That's why we had a pretty nice conversation earlier today on your Rod Peterson show about it. And it's made it the story of the week in the National Hockey League is what it's done. Connor McDavid suspended 3 games. It's not like he's going to cable. You've got to sit home and watch TV and watch it. You know, cable, I've never been to cable. I've only been to Acapulco and Cancun. Not the worst places to go if you're in Mexico. But with all due respect, the way I look at it is what I've been saying. They made an example out of them. A cross-check is a cross-check.
I understand it, and they really mean business. This is a case of, I don't know if you have kids or not, Scott, but my parents used to say to me, and I said it to mine, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you when the belt comes out. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't want to sideline Connor McDavid for 3 games. I understand that. So as zany as I think you are, you might really be onto something. What I'm saying is,
okay,
I don't subscribe to that line of thinking because they're hurting themselves. The guy's got to defend himself because there's nobody to do it. Stand up for him. So he got a 5-minute match in the game and a game misconduct. That goes on his record. I know there was only 3 seconds left in the game when it happened, but that goes on his record. So anyways, everybody's got an opinion. I don't like it. I'll never see where the NHL is coming from, but I hope we can still be friends. How about that?
You and I aren't friends. We're brothers. Period.
I know, me and the NHL. You and I are all.
Yeah, but here's the thing. All right, so what? Connor McDavid won't win the Lady Byng Trophy? Seriously? Really? I mean, I've never heard a trophy for sportsmanship. Lady Byng Trophy? All right, so it's the only trophy he won't have in the trophy case. He's got everything else.
I always thought it was a little weird. That trophy.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, let me.
A cross-check is a cross-check, Rod, no matter how you slice it, and he got 3 games out of it. We could justify it all we want. We talked earlier on your show today, and I don't know whether we fully had an opportunity to dwell on it, but I remember years ago when Henry Boucher got hit by the butt end of the stick like Dave Forbes, and and that practically ended Boucher's career. It was never the same, and Forbes was nearly criminally charged for this. That was bad.
Yeah, of course. Well, by the way, Connor McDavid has never won the Lady Byng Trophy, but your guy, Pavel Datsyuk, won it 4 years in a row from 06 to 09. Pretty much had a lock on it. But McDavid's never won it. Wayne Gretzky did in 1999, also 94, 92, 91.
Well, when was the last time a Detroit Red Wings goaltender won a Vezina Trophy?
How about Hasek?
No, I believe it goes back to Roger Crozier and Terry Sawchuk. Look it up. I got him tonight. I don't know the answer, but I know it's been a long time because we've had a lot of good goaltenders. Hey, Candy, go ahead and Google up Vezina Trophy.
I got it.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead. Is it Crozier or Sawchuk?
Well, I'm still. You got to go back a long ways.
Well, yeah, that's why I brought the question up.
Hasek, bro, 99, 98, 97. He was
not for Detroit. Didn't he win it for Buffalo?
It says his name. It doesn't say.
No, he was with Buffalo then, man. You're looking like a Buffalo right now.
Well, I didn't expect to be going down this road.
Well, you never expect anything to go down the road with us. That's what makes us such a great team, brother.
Yeah, keep talking. As I
Yeah,
will
I
end
will
up.
keep talking. I have a feeling it's either, I don't think it was Glenn Hall, it's either Terry Sawchuk or Roger Crozier, one of those three guys. But
You're
it's
right.
been
Hasek was the Saber all 3 of those years. So we're going back a really long
I want to say
ways.
back into the 60s, Rod, at least.
That is not a good sign for you. It was Terry
Well,
Sawchuk.
that's what I'm saying.
It was Terry Sawchuk in 1955. You weren't even born yet.
Yeah, but I mentioned the name. Hey, by the way, Mark Meredith, thanks a lot for being in. And he's not buying into McDavid either. And you know what? Great stuff, Mark. He's going to be on the show. Probably Mark Meredith will probably be on here at least 2 or 3 times a month to join us here on the Sports Exchange. I'm
The
glad to
butcher.
have you on. What's that, Rodney?
The butcher.
The butcher. Yeah, that's
No,
how
the
you know.
barber. The barber.
Well, the blunt's a different BBB. Yeah, he is the barber. But I was right about Sawchuk. I knew it was either Sawchuk or Crozier. I didn't think it was Glenn Hall. But that's what I'm saying. The Red Wings haven't got a President Trophy to show for it. But I'll tell you what, they have a Lady Baines, they got Norris trophies, but they don't have a Texan. Really? Seriously? A goalies trophy. And yet they won. But yet they won 4 Stanley Cups.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got all the Stanley Cups in the last 30 years, so quit complaining.
I'm not complaining. I just think it's hilarious. That's all. A great goaltender. You know, forget about Mike Vernon. Forget about Chris Osgood and all those guys. They were pretty good goaltenders, but obviously other guys are better. But the Wings got the rings. Good analogy, and I love the shirt, by the way. It wears
That
well.
is a very. I think you make the shirt look better than it is. To
Oh,
be honest,
yeah.
but you came into the studio today. I was like, wow. I love the Wings gear, man. I love that franchise. I've never cheered for them, but I
Yeah,
have a
okay.
mondo respect for the Detroit Red Wings.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, my buddy George Richards, when I had him on our show, on the show before, he ended up showing me some Detroit Red Wings media guides or programs. So, you know, George is one of my closest friends down in the area. And he has, Red Wings are a proud franchise. A lot of people respect them in South Florida. They really do. I mean, obviously, the Florida Panthers have done a great job as of late, but they've always drawn pretty good crowds when the Red Wings are there. And you don't know half the crowds in red and white versus the other way. So it's always a good turnout. I've seen a lot of those games. But the whole idea is right, Rod. We're talking about the whole thing, and Meredith brings in some unbelievable comments. And Candy, why don't you get all of Mark Meredith's comments up? I really want to talk about it because this guy's going to be on our show. He really is a great player. He is about himself. Thank you, brother. Well, problem anytime, my man. Thanks, Rod. What are the Panthers looking at for March 7th? Okay. What else we have? And he doesn't quite agree with you on the other one that was above it. So keep going. Scott makes me smile, clinging to him. Well, that's nice of you, C. Lightning. Appreciate that. So what else do we have? And by the way, 10:16 left in the second period. Detroit Red Wings 4, Montreal Canadiens 1.
Ooh.
So that may be one of the games that I actually got right. You'll have to give me my report card probably tomorrow when you text me.
I will.
Yeah. Yeah. So Candy, what was the other one? Yeah. So we talked about McDavid. We covered that a lot of ground. But a cross check is a cross check. That's how it's defined. Now, whether we not like the logic behind it all is another story. And we could talk about this whole subject all day long, but we're not going to do it. But I think we've done a really magnificent job covering it now, let alone earlier on the Rod Peterson show. And at the end of the broadcast, you're going to let everybody know how you're going to find it yet again. So those that are tuning in a little bit later in the show will definitely be able to do that. Fair enough?
I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move on.
Well, all right. So we're going to do that. The goalies of the week, January 13th and 19th, minimum 3 games. I got to give Joshua Bernstein credit because he does come up with some pretty good ideas. The credit to with Joshua Bernstein. But the ones that he sent me, he's a big fan of my show here with you, as well as yours as well. But the ones that he sent to me were Logan Thompson of Washington. I love the goals against average because it reminds me of your phone number over there, 0.33, as you know what the 33 means by now. Spencer Knight, ever heard of him? I have, 0.41, pretty good. Jake Ettinger, Dallas, 1.36, and then you have Darcy Kemper, the LA Kings, 1.71. Not a bad group of goaltenders. Some thoughts about that list.
Well, first of all, I was going to say none are Canadian, but that's not true. Logan Thompson is, and you would say, why do you have to point that out? Well, we have a problem in Canada producing goaltenders. We're going to find out in the Four Nations face-off exactly how big of a problem that is. What do I think about that? Logan Thompson is the #1 star of the week in the NHL, not to mention the best goalie. And what they're saying is, I don't know what the exact numbers are. If Joshua Burstein's watching, he might know. I think he's related to Joshua Dorr. But I think Logan Thompson's gone like 11-1 since being snubbed for Canada, Team Canada, for the Four Nations face-off. And I find that really interesting. I don't know how you are on snubs, Scott. If you're snubbed from a Pro Bowl or things like this, does it motivate you more? Sad to think that that might be a factor, but that's what I think. And then Ottinger's American, and Spencer Knight's obviously American from Darien, Connecticut. So this is the future of the NHL with these goalies that won this award this week.
I'll give you a brief observation when I think of snubs. They bother you initially, but when players ultimately get hurt and they can't show up, they ultimately become there. It just doesn't look good initially is what it does. But ultimately, the ones that were snubbed ultimately end up there. That's really where I'm going to go with the whole thing. So it's an ego thing at the beginning, but subsequently it doesn't matter at the end. And I'll leave it at that because we have a lot of other great topics, one of which you wrote in your story that I want to get more information about, and that's the Philadelphia's plan to build a new arena. And Jennifer Matthews Lewis, bring her up there, Candy. She's actually on Chicks and Salsa, and she happens to be on Three Chicks in a Pod, and that's Candy's co-host on a couple of shows. Jennifer Matthews Lewis says, I like the fights in hockey. You know what, Jennifer? I love you, sweetheart. Great stuff. Women like fights. How many women really gravitate to fights, man? Gotta put that comment up again. Seriously, I want the whole world to know. In Canada, my country, second country, by the way, but lives there in Detroit, we're brothers, connected by a bridge and a tunnel. Good stuff, right, Jen? Oh, she knows I'm crazy. Well, then again, what did you learn anyway? Who cares? I'm wearing the shirt. Don't really care. All you Florida Panthers, no bother intended, but the reality is I know where I was born, and I knew about Gordie Howe as we promoted that ahead. So snubs, they don't bother me. So let's go to the topic at hand in the Philadelphia's new arena. We all know about the Spectrum. I actually saw a basketball game there, and I believe they have the Wells Fargo Arena. Is that correct? Or Center? I don't know which one it is, but Wells Fargo connected to it.
Yep.
So they initially talked about building a $1.3 billion stadium downtown, and now they're actually backtracking and looking to put it back in South Philly. You wrote about it. Now you get to talk about it. After you do that, we go to a station break.
Simply, you've kind of covered it all. There was plans to build it right downtown where all the facilities are. Lincoln Financial Field, the ballpark's right there. There was a plan to put this new hockey arena right there where Wells Fargo Center stands. And for whatever reason, it was scrapped. Comcast is the landlord. It's the owners of the 76ers and the New Jersey Devils that are building this thing. I think it's maybe ironic or whatever you want to say that the Flyers owners are not involved in this. And I believe they'll just be the tenants. I believe the Flyers are moving with the 76ers into this new arena. It's not going to be built till 2031. So it's going to be a long time before they're actually playing in it. And there's a desire to lure a WNBA franchise for Philadelphia as well. I kind of wonder if the league will still be, I'm sure it'll still be going by then. It's been going for a long time. But that is this, you read it all. It's going to go in South Philly, opening 2031. 76ers and New Jersey Devils owners are the main owners of it.
All right, so my question to you is this. Philadelphia doesn't mind keeping their arenas. They kept the Spectrum up a while they had the neighboring arena there. I've been in that sports complex too, Rod, when I actually covered games over at the Veterans Stadium. So I happened to go out there and see an old JFK Stadium, and I was in the Spectrum. What do you think in your mind? And again, I'm not thinking that you're the actual source on this, that they would do with that building because it's relatively new. You can't tear that place down. Don't you think it'd be wise to at least probably put the WNBA team in there? Or what would they do? Or AAA team? I don't know. I'm lost on this one.
No. Well, let's just remember, number one, it's not opening until 2031. So I guess that is only 6 years away, but that's still quite a long ways away. Number two, nowhere in the article did it say that the Flyers were moving. I would suspect that they would, but they might not. Like you say, the Spectrum stayed up for a very long time, and the Philadelphia Phantoms American Hockey League team played there for years. Right now, Wells Fargo Center is home to the 76ers, the Flyers, and the Wings, the Philadelphia Wings, I believe, the National Lacrosse League. So it's not like that arena is not busy.
Okay.
So as we sit here today, it would sound to me like the 76ers are moving and they're trying to attract a WNBA team. Those would be the tenants. Doesn't sound like initially that I saw that the Flyers are moving.
Okay, well, that's good. That's why I asked you for clarification. So you have the Flyers, the lacrosse. There's no reason why you tear a building down after 30 years. You just don't. I understood the reasons for the spectrum. That had been there for a while, and it lacked the amenities. I understood that one, and we all know Kate Smith made that place famous, especially when the Russians went there and got their tails kicked by the Flyers. And that's for another day and another topic, but there's a memory that a lot of Philadelphia fans will certainly cherish. And if you were an American on that time when the Russians were beating the daylights out of every team in the NHL, the Flyers were the team that we all depended upon to try to save face with what the Russians were doing to us. But that's what, so at least that arena is not going to go to waste. So just a little update what we have going on here. We do have 100 eyes looking at us at the moment, Rod. This shows you we're working on building a big show. So for all you folks that are tuning in for the first time, please let everybody know that Rod and I do this every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We're looking to build a big buzz on here with the hockey show. And we certainly have a lot of background and, of course, our ability to work together on projects such as the Rod Peterson show. At some point, I'm looking to get to the Cats and Bolts podcast, I believe, in Boca Raton after I get back from the Super Bowl or somewhere along those lines. But so we're really working. Rod and I have a lot of things that we're working on over the course of time. I met this guy, and he's a super class act. He's iconic in Canada, and I feel very fortunate to have this guy as my partner here. To me, this guy and I are like boxers and brothers, okay? But I think the one analogy I mentioned on your show earlier is, you know what? Didn't I say that you were, let's see, pizzazz, right? And pretty equals TV, and I'm grind and grit equals radio. That's the difference, but not all they have these cameras.
You're far too kind, but it's a formidable duo for sure. So yeah, we do a good programming together.
So what you're telling me is that one building doesn't figure to get torn down. There's enough tenants that they can have to spread it out. And I know one thing, Rod, having been to that facility, there's enough parking to last. It could support a lot of different structures. Bear in mind, JFK, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think sat over 100,000 and used to be the home of the Army-Navy game. Oh, and I remember when I was there, they had an actual bubble out there for the Philadelphia Eagles practice facility. Just to show you how far to go back with it. All right, with that said, we're going to go over to a station break, and then Rod is going to talk about his trip to Chicago. Can't wait to hear this one. We'll be back.
The South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you see that red subscribe button, hit it, like us, share us with all your friends and family. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can also find us wherever you get your podcast. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday nights and Thursday nights on Sports Exchange and Fire Up. You just never know what we're going to be talking about, so tune in to find out. The South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. Audiobook coming later this year. There is also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where both of these fine gentlemen write for us. So go check it out. Go check the website out. Check their wonderful writings out. There's also a link to our merchandise store in case you want some cool merchandise. If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, you can call Scott, 954-304-4941. You want to be a guest on a show or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And if I talk too fast or you didn't catch it, hit the rewind button or watch it all over again or read it on the bottom. It's been scrolling. Back to you, Scott, and the programming.
Candy, put Steve Lightning 300. I am subscribed to Scott. The South Florida Tribune. Great stuff, man. Please spread the word. Rod and I have a lot to do. We'll have George Choice going on from time to time with a little bit. Oh, that's okay. I have enough energy to cover for both of us. Mark Meriday is going to be on here a lot, so get used to this guy. He loves hockey. Anybody that loves hockey is invited to come on this show and match wits ends with Rod and I. We love to have you. We want fresh energy hockey. And we've proven that we can handle it on our own, but we don't mind company, right, Rod?
No, absolutely not.
Not in this setting. All right. Rod, guess what? You went to a place called Chicago, Illinois, and you had a great time. But let me go ahead and mention a few things that when I was covering the Lions, and I'd gone to Windy City many times, okay? And I'll see what comes to mind with you. All right. For me, Wrigley Field, I had a chance to meet Harry Carey, covered a game there. Soldier Field covered the Lions and the Bears a lot. Comiskey Park, I had covered the White Sox and had an opportunity to do a story on the organist Nancy Faust. If that isn't good enough, did you ever go to Gibson Steakhouse there?
No, I didn't do that, but we had several deep dish pizza recommendations that we went to 4 different pizza restaurants
Yeah, there's no
on the
that there.
weekends. And
You got to get to Gibson Steakhouse when we get back there, brother.
Oh, trust me, we will. But it was -6 degrees Celsius, -6 Fahrenheit, -28 Celsius with the wind chill. So we weren't really in the mood for bopping around town. But it's interesting you talk about the 30-year-old Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. The United Center in Chicago, you could eat off the floors, dude. And last year marked their 30th year for the United Center in Chicago. And we had the wonderful opportunity to spend it with the Blackhawks alumni in their suite. Chris Chelios, Grant Mulvey, Kyle Calder. We had a great fun. It's the last place team in the NHL, Scott. That place was rocking, packed to the capacity for the Chicago Blackhawks. So 2 Hawks games, 4 pizza restaurants, went to Wrigley Field. What more could you ask other than Gibson Steakhouse? Serena said we got to go back in the spring or summer and watch some baseball, and we'll hit the steakhouse then.
Well, there's only one problem that you missed, and it's too late now. I remember going to the Chicago Stadium watching Michael Jordan. So, I mean, sorry, Serena. Love you, sweetheart, but you ain't going to Chicago Stadium. You can only visualize it over the Chicago Sports Hall of Fame because it was next door. And I've been to both places. I can tell you the Chicago Stadium was unbelievable. But yeah, Gibson Steakhouse is great. The second city. Chicago is one of my favorite cities of all time. It really is. And I don't mind mentioning a little personal stuff. There was a one time when I actually met a nice Jewish lady from St. Louis, and we went out on a couple dates when I was out there. You know, Detroit's in far from Chicago, about 4 hours. We got along. We were friends for a while, but then, you know, as time goes on, I'm in Detroit. She's in St. Louis and a lot of stuff. But she was actually there in the entertainment business, and we had a good time, and she showed me the area. It was a real fun time, but Chicago is just unbelievable. They're known for their Irish bars and all that stuff, and Michigan Avenue is, well, what can I say? I loved it when you had that shirt of mine when you promoted the show with Michigan, Lake Michigan. That was really good that you had as a preview there. You ever heard of Trevor Thompson, by the way?
I might have refreshed my memory.
Well, he's a good friend of mine, and he's actually a commentator for the Detroit Red Wings, and him and I are real close. I showed him that photo of you and I and me wearing the Red Wings shirt in the promo, and he's unbelievable. He's one of the closest friends I have. You talk about a brother, Trevor Thompson. They don't make him any better than that. That's for sure, but I love you, Trev. If you're watching it, otherwise I'll get you the show and you can listen to it later. But yeah, no, Chicago's just great. I think it's one of the best cities in the country. It really is. Tell you one thing though, if you ever cover a Bears game over at Soldier Field, not before they fixed it up, I had to wear 3 pairs of socks along with hiking boots, and I was still freezing by Lake Michigan. I'm telling you, you don't know what it's like to freeze until you're by Lake Michigan. It's dead winter right around Christmas time. That's when you have to deal with a freeze. I don't know how bad it was when you were, but during Christmas time, there's no picnic. But boy, the trees and all that stuff.
There's a reason that I live in Florida. I think there's a reason you do too. We're not interested in being in the cold. So I won't be going back to Chicago for a football game and sitting outside anytime soon. Put it that way.
No, maybe you won't, but I'll tell you one thing. Soldier Field was a historical place and had a lot of memories. See Barry Sanders there and the Bears. I mean, it's just historic. All right. You had a friend that recently passed away. I'm going to give you the floor on this one, Rod. His name was Danny McCourt, 1954 to 2025. I believe, if my math serves me correctly, I believe he was 70 years of age. And so, I believe he officiated in 1,600 games, 2 decades in the scouting and development with the league's officiating department. Okay, Rod, the floor is yours. I want you to go out there and talk about Danny McCourt, and we will donate the show to him.
If people don't remember Danny McCourt, you might remember his brother Dale McCourt, who played in the NHL all the same time that Danny was officiating in the National Hockey League. And you got it right, Scott, 1,600 plus games as a linesman. I got to know him at the Centennial Cup in 2021 It's the Canadian National Junior Hockey Championship, Junior A Hockey Championship, and it was awesome. In the host hotel, we just sat in the lobby, and I'm sure you've had these types of events, things have you covered. All the hockey people just came and sat in the lobby of the hotel. It was like a come and go, have a coffee and tell hockey stories. And that's what Danny McCourt did. He was the head of officiating for the Ontario Junior Hockey League when I met him, and we sat and talked hockey all day long. This is a guy that probably should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame because of what he did. I think they put officials in there. I know they do have an officials Hall of Fame. He just loved the game, Scott. You don't get out of the NHL after 1,600 games and then go work junior if you didn't love it. You know what I mean? Just a great hockey guy. Real nice guy. Has all the time of day for anybody who wants to talk. Big hole in the hockey world. And condolences to the McCourt family. How's that?
All right, Candy, go out there and put Sea Lightning, 300-mile Dale McCourt. I remember, sure. He was an excellent player for the Detroit Red Wings. I remember when he was traded to the LA Kings and rejected the trade, and they had have additional compensation. It was the same thing that when you had the Marcel Dion trade, that I think Terry Harper didn't want to go, but was actually forced to go. But there was resistance there, and I believe Dan Maloney was also included in that trade. So there was a history of trades between the Red Wings and the LA Kings back in the 70s, where nobody wanted to go from Motown to LA. But in the result, but Dale McCourt was a heck of a player. I really enjoyed watching him. He knew how to put the biscuit in the basket, as a lot of hockey people would go out there and say. So, yeah, rest in peace. I didn't know him, but then again, you know everybody on the planet to begin with when it comes to the hockey world. No, you do, and that's impressive because that's a sport that obviously you've been around a long time. I've been around a lot of different sports. Hockey certainly is something, being a Canadian as you are, have had way more exposure. Nevertheless, it's a great sport. It has a great history. It goes back to the early 1900s, so nobody's going to ever question the validity about the hockey history going on at this particular point. But Dale McCourt, Sea Lightning, I'll tell you, it's been a pleasure having you on. Jennifer Matthews Lewis, my goodness, I'll tell you. Well, one of these days, Jen, if you're ever interested, there's an open invite. We'll bring you on here. We'd love to have a woman on here to talk hockey. So if you're still on here and tuning in, Jen, great. If you're not, we'll talk about it another time. But really, what a show we've had today, Rod. Let's talk. We're going to do a lot of things in the future. We're obviously talked about me going on the Rod Peterson show. I think only a couple times a month is what we talked about initially, pretty much, right? And occasionally I'll sneak into the Cats and Bolts show. But more importantly, your presence here on our network is definitely appreciated. And we're trying to go out there and provide our network with a variety of sports, and that's what we do on Thursday night. Right now, at the 33-minute mark, we're getting about $1.23, so we have a pretty nice turnout watching hockey tonight. So wherever you are, I want to thank you very much. And like I say, if you haven't subscribed to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, please do so. Hit the red subscribe button. We're looking to build this show and make it one of the biggest ones on the network. And there's no reason why two heavyweights like Rod and I could go out there and do it. And of course, let's not forget, George Reichert will be here, and Mark Meriday, and anybody that wants to come on. Sea Lightning invitation as well. If you ever want to come on our show, what I want you to do is, it's an open invite to a lot of people, especially when they act like you. Go out there and email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com and mention that you're on tonight's show. I believe today's date is 1/23/25. And you know what? If you want to come on, well, if you're too shy, that's okay. But you know what? When I have nice people like you out there, I always feel it's important for me to give you that courtesy invite, because positivity is what this world needs. And I've gotten a great deal of it from you tonight, Sea Lightning. And I'm very, very delighted we have the opportunity to meet in the chat room. Unbelievable stuff. It really, really, really is. So, Rod, we've covered a lot of ground tonight. Is there anything else that we may have left off, or does that wrap it up for this week? Or maybe you should go out there and give a preview of what you might be, what people can look forward to when you release your article in the South Florida Tribune. Just a little snapshot.
Yeah, I think that's dropping tonight. It's 10 NHL things, and we talked a lot about the Connor McDavid suspension, gave my thoughts on it. Doug McLean, the Florida Panthers coach who took them to the 1996 Stanley Cup Final, was on our Cats and Bolts podcast this week. I put some quotes in there. He gave scouting reports on the Panthers, the Lightning, where he thinks they're going. The Great Eight, Alex Ovechkin's chase of Wayne Gretzky's records. He's 21 goals away. We examine that. Just a lot of the most topical things in the NHL right now will be on the South Florida Tribune website tonight.
All right, so what we're going to do is, when that's released, by the way, there will be a couple of our episodes in there as well. So not only are you going to see Rod's comments, but we have a couple episodes. So in case you missed them on YouTube, one of the things that we're going to incorporate in Rod's articles going forward will be 2 or 3 of our episodes every week, or maybe or one. But at the moment, we want to get everybody an opportunity. So if you miss it the first time, you read his stuff. The episodes will be included in the story. All you have to do is click it on, and then you'll be able to go ahead and watch the show and read all this guy's work. He does a really good job. The best part of it, we don't have to edit this guy. I can tell you some editing that we have to do more than others, but yours are a little bit easier on the eyes, no matter how bad my vision is anyway. So with that said, Rod, what I'm going to ask you to do, as I did at the outset of the broadcast, is this. We had the Rod Peterson show. I want you to let everybody know how they can watch it. And every show that you have, I want you to please go out there and, whether it's Cats and Bolts, wherever, put it out there so everybody here, in case they're joining us a little bit later.
Well, you see the name on the screen, Rod Peterson. Go give that a follow on Twitter, and that will link you to all our shows. The Rod Peterson Show airs daily on Game Plus television across all of Canada and 32 U.S. states, noon to 2, live daily on Game Plus TV. Scott was with me today for an hour and a half on it. And the Cats and Bolts podcast drops every Thursday from here in Boca Raton, the Podcast Junkie studio. That's on YouTube. Search Cats and Bolts, all one word, and it has won the award for Florida's fastest growing podcast, all genres. So there are hockey fans in Florida. We found them.
Great stuff. All right, Candy, you got one more station break left in you. Go ahead. Also, I should talk about at the top of the hour, Fire Up with Candy Ebling as your host. Candy, you have a rough idea what everybody can look forward to in a little bit. First of all, station break, and then you can go ahead and preview Fire Up.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. It talks about Scott's 40-plus years in the industry and how it has changed. Old school media versus new school media. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. Audiobook coming later this year. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. If you want to be a guest or have show ideas, email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday nights on Sports Exchange. Thursday nights on Sports Exchange and also on Fire Up. You just never know what you're going to get, so tune in to find out. Except I'll give you a sneak preview. Tonight, we are going to be talking about Pittsburgh Pirates, Paul Skeens. We're going to be talking about the Hall of Fame selection that MLB just recently had. We are also going to be talking about NFL and the championship games this weekend. And there's going to be some more, but I don't want to tip my hand on everything. That's a good start.
Okay, one more comment I want to put up, Candy, the one at the very bottom. Rod, unbelievable response tonight. Proud of you. One of our best shows since we've been doing this, but I expect them to get better and better. And you and I know the vehicle for which we need to go out there and produce these type of numbers. And I'll tell you, it's only going to get better from here. So, Scott, you and Rod are both finger red, number one. All I can say is, see lightning, you are the BEST. And if you want me to read it out loud, it's called best. Okay. And I forgot the exclamation point, but I just put it in there with my mouth and it made it a loud best. Thank you very much. You're the best. So with that said, that does it for this edition of Sports Exchange. Rod and I will be back at it next Thursday night with or without George Eichhorn. We don't care. We can share a mic and we can go out there and we can do it by ourselves. It don't make any difference. We're here to talk hockey, a lot of it, and we try to do everything in our power to come up with the top headlines in the world of the frozen pond. With that said, I want to thank you very much for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. On behalf of Rod Peterson, my name is Scott Morgan, the Motor City Madmouth, well, as ever. Of course, I don't know how much amount I'll be in the country club with Candy. I'll fire up. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Sports Exchange. Guess what? We have a date next Thursday night at 8 o'clock, and we hope to see every one of you with us. Have a great night, everybody, and have a great weekend. Bye now. Enjoy the football, even though we talk hockey the whole show.